All right. Hello, Kevin.
Hey man, how's it going?
I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. The skies are gray today here in Oakland, and it looks like we're gonna have a rainstorm. So that always puts me into a good mood. How about you? How is the weather there in Michigan?
It's a little hazy, but it's supposed to go up into the 50s, which is really kind
Whoa,
of like it feels like the summer, like we're trying to be Hawaii here. So yeah, I have walked outside in my sandals already, and so it's nice. It is nice.
that's
Um,
funny. I'm sorry, I
no,
didn't
go
mean to
ahead.
interrupt you.
No,
No, I
go
was just
ahead.
gonna say like 50s is wow, sandal weather. Here is like okay, if it's above 70, I might consider wearing sandals above 70. So it has to be in the good 80s at least
Yeah,
for me to even consider.
yeah. I saw somebody comment on that last week. It's funny to see people in the Midwest, Upper Midwest. The minute it hits 35, people are outside in their shorts and sandals.
That's great. That's great.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
happy for you. Is there still snow on the ground?
Oh yes. And
Okay.
actually, we're supposed to have snow next week too. So um, winter ain't over. I've seen it actually snow in May here. I
Okay.
think certainly in April. So it's a weird place in all of the best qualities of the word weird. Uh, so
Cross-eyed Crucible, we're here.
yeah, we're in the cross-eyed crucible. You want to? Who's going to steward this week? I think I did it last week. Can you do it?
You did do it last week. Can
Okay.
you do it this week? And what I can do is I can take time and I can walk us into the
Okay.
Crucible.
Yeah, I will.
How
I
does
will
that
do it.
sound?
I would. I will. I will steward us.
Okay.
So Kevin, yeah, you please go ahead, crossing us over the threshold.
Okay, sweet. Grandmothers and grandfathers, thank you for being with us at the Cross-Eyed Crucible as we are going to steward another session. Please watch over us, watch over our tongues and our hearts and in our minds, and make sure that whatever we say is in the right alignment with your vision and our vision, and putting our trust and faith into our higher power, into our ancestors, into our audience, into Matt and I. And I'm going to go ahead and cross over into the crucible. Matt, will you join me?
Yeah, I'm coming in. Thank you, Kevin. So I'm standing at the threshold, and boy, thank you for that. The right alignment. I'm just recognizing that I ask that. Yes, what Kevin said. I want that to happen. I want to be. I want that feeling of both safety of the ancestors in this space while we go down the risky path of checking things out deep down inside. Um, like we talked about, and we'll talk about this week too. Going inside can be a risky behavior. So I want to acknowledge that and acknowledge all our visitors and Kevin and bless us all as we take this adventure, crossing the threshold, saying thank you. This is Matt from Michigan, the Blue Hand State, and I'm in.
All right, it's good to have you here. Go ahead and take it over, Matt. What you got for us this week?
Well, we're with Angulimala,
Of course.
and the thing is, we've come to this place of transformation by grace, at least in part. Everything that led up to the moment of grace is also part of the mix. And also, everything that happens afterwards is also part of the mix. But the thing that we're at, and so, yes, if you have not listened to the story yet, you need to look down below in the blurb, and we'll have the link. We'll just put the link for the third section in, but you can look in the past weeks if you want to catch up. We'll put the links down there if they're not already there. Um,
And we can put all three
yeah,
in
we'll
the
just put all
description.
three in. Yeah, okay. Um, Listen to all three of them so that you can catch up if you haven't yet. So that's where I want to put it for me is um, grace. and whatever else comes up, checking in on this story. But how does that work? What is grace? Do I deserve grace? Do I have to do something to deserve grace? It appears that I don't. It appears that if I'm Angulimala, I can be the worst possible Angulimala that I can be, and I still get grace. What is that all about?
Mhm.
So I'm gonna just let's talk.
Yeah, I love that. You bringing up grace. I was thinking about Ahimsaka. I mean, he had to become Mala, in my opinion, in order for him to feel into that grace. So, the way that I look at grace is that grace is holding the tension of life, and in Buddhism we call it the eight worldly winds. So there's pleasure and pain, blame and shame. Like so there's like the opposites, right? And it's our role to hold that. Can we be present for the tension? Can we not favor one over the other? And in Gulimala, when he was a Himsaka, his life was fairly one-dimensional. There was a over attachment to being good, to performing perfectly, to being above and cut above the rest. And so it was almost like he had to become Gulimala to create that balance so that he could feel into his shadow, to his shadow side, what was there potentially. We all have this innate shadow side that is always with us, following us, being with us, undermining our reality. And so, if there's anything that is constant in this world, is one, change is constant, but also two, right? It's the navigating the tension between good and evil. And so, I'll go ahead and start the conversation by putting that on the table.
Yeah, what is that word that we equanimity?
Hmm.
Um, but first, yeah. So you see, grace to me, from my history, means a go past jail free card, and it means I get away with something.
Mm.
It's not about being aware, being awake to the life that I'm living. It's about um, I got over on somebody or something,
Mm.
and even God is dumb enough to give me a go past jail for free, or get out of jail for free card. You know what I mean? And so getting re-understanding, getting a new learning about what grace means has a lot to do with um, being present. Um, because it does not mean that grace and the good things that can happen with grace does not mean that there aren't consequences for past actions. Grace can come, and there's still going to be consequences for things. What I heard too was the addiction to and getting stuck in certain experiences of shame, complain, pain, um, getting stuck in those grooves means that, yeah, when the grace shows up and something better happens than I expected, again, and then the word expectation is in there, I'm telling the story as a way to try to control life, which is not controllable. I have expectations about the way things may be, including good and bad, and maybe especially bad expectations. And when life shows up the way life was going to show up anyways, it could feel like a miracle. Wow. Or like I said, God is a sucker. He's letting me get away with something that I thought I was supposed to have bad consequences with. So the thing for me, that's the interesting thing about grace, is that I'm loved.
Mm.
And that means I need to try to be present with what does it mean to be loved in a way that I don't understand, without some kind of cost. You get loved because you do this. What I'm experiencing as I learn about grace is there is no cost. There is no condition. There is no precondition that I get loved from God, the ancestors, higher power. And so that's what I have to say about that.
I have a question. So, what is love for you?
Oh man.
I mean, you don't have to answer the question.
No, but that's why I'm here. I want to be present for these things.
Mhm.
And I'm thankful too that you asked. Love for me is acceptance, support, um, constancy, um, and awareness. Love for me is um, acknowledging my imperfection, that it's okay for me to be just as I am, and giving that as well. It's okay for other people to be as they are. I really go back and forth from I think I said last week that God for me, and that uh, used to be God was either Santa Claus or Satan. When life was good, God seemed like Santa Claus. When life was difficult, God seemed like Satan. Um, Disassociating from that is that God is love.
Mhm.
And that includes those things that I've said, the feeling that yesterday, today, and tomorrow, I'm going to be loved no matter what. And seeing examples of that in human beings who are imperfect. And that's okay. There are no deities here in human form. There are people who work really hard and care, but everybody has their bad days and can be fallible and even be as bad as Angulimala. How do I accept that? So I have to get, I have to talk to people who care about me and love me. That's how I learn about love too. Is conversations like this. That's what I think about love. What is love for you?
Well, I actually had a question that goes a little further. So, what is God's love, or is what is love? Is that, do you connect that to God's love, or is God's love different?
I think that God's love, um, first of all, God is expressed through um, in a lot of different ways. God communicates to me both through people. I felt God in here in the Cross-eyed Crucible. I felt God in conversations with people I don't know. And sometimes I don't even know that I was having a conversation with God until 3 days later. Wow, that felt like a higher power experience. Where'd that come from? So to say that people love and God love are different, I think that that's also true, though, that there is eternal love, which I don't understand. That's why I'm saying, to be loved, even though you act like Angulimala, to be loved by the Buddha and supported, how do you, it doesn't fit within human love because so often human love has conditions. If you treat me this way, I'll treat you this way. We make these agreements, both stated and unconscious. And so um, there is a kind of eternal love to me that some people can practice, and it does take work because um, uh, it's such an intoxicating thing to be involved in the passions of human judgment. So yeah, there's a difference certainly between um, human love and God love when it is about conditions for being loved. That's what I have to say about that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. The reason why I asked you that was because I went and visited my grandfather, and I had this conversation with him. It was quite interesting. He was sharing. I would just want to give a shout out to my grandpa out there. Hi, Grandpa. I love you. he was sharing, and I don't think this is confidential. I think it's okay if I share. But he was sharing that he didn't really understand why in the world that God will allow people to suffer, right? Like needlessly suffer. And what he was able to do is that he put these oatmeal cookies in front of me, and he said, Kevin, like we get to enjoy these mouth-watering, delicious oatmeal cookies, but there's someone here in this neighborhood who's actually going starving. If there's a God, why do people starve? And I thought to myself, and I actually said aloud, was that, one of the things that is plentiful here on this in this plane of existence is the opportunity to experience the grace of God. And so there are people who are out there actually who are starving, and and you know um, I have gone days where I have starved. Um, yeah, and it's quite interesting. I never looked at it as a depletion of God's love. And so one of the examples I was able to use in that example, I mean, in that conversation that we were having, I told him, I said, look, I was born when I came into this world. I had one great grandmother when I came into this world. No, one great grandmother, four great grandmothers, and then one set of grandparents, because the other set was deceased. But what I told him was that I went from all of those people to now only have one grandparent left. I have a grandfather left, and how much I took that for granted. Having four great grandmothers, I knew them all personally. I had great relationships with all four of them. And my great grandmother, she loved me. She worshipped the floor I walked on. But did I appreciate that? No, I didn't. I didn't appreciate that wisdom. I was too young. How could I? I was too young. But now, as I'm experiencing loss, right, my love for them is deepening. And as I lost my grandmother, I watched her as she passed away. I looked into her eyes. I actually gave her permission or offer. I didn't give her permission, but it was just like, okay, it's okay for you to transition. Offering her that love of care and support and presence as she was transitioning. I don't have her anymore. And so I feel that loss. I feel that sense of loss. But it's something about that sense of loss that allows me to love if I can open up my heart. So those who come in before me and the last grandparent that I have left, it gives me more of a, I guess, more of a confidence or a booster to show up for the things that are difficult, because I'm choosing to experience that love and not the loss. So um so I credit the closeness that I have to him, to God's grace, to the grace of understanding that this person I will lose without a doubt. And he's even talking about all this transition business. He looks healthy. I mean, he's great. He's Right now he's putting in towel on his kitchen floor. He's great, but he's preparing me. He's saying one day I'm not going to be here. And so what do I do with the time that I have left? Well, I'm going to love him even more now that I know that loss is looming, and I know that it's coming. And so for me, that's the grace of holding both the good and the bad, but not being sucked into the bad and not being sucked into the good, not being attached to either one, but just holding them in relationship to one another, to me is grace. And ultimately, when I choose to do that, I'm choosing love. So, um, yeah, I just wanted to share that. So we are coming to that period of time where we can begin to ramp down the conversation a bit and get ready to cross over so that we can meet the outside world again. Is there anything that you would like to add to the
We're gonna
conversation?
we're gonna keep on talking about Angulimala, I imagine, next week too, right?
Yeah.
Um, and one thing I do want to bring up is last week I talked about the Catholic Church, and I have to recognize too, within grace, I said, where is in the great mother arriving, the mother arriving, and the feminine arriving for Angulimala, where was the sister? Where is the mother in the Holy Family of the Catholicism I brought up? And it just made me. I recognize sometimes I present things in a way that is even teasing or and I just want to say, that's not fair. I respect my brothers and sisters who are working their faith through that that way.
Same, same.
Absolutely, it's not fair. I don't want to make fun of anybody. I don't
Hmm.
want. I do have some issues. What was done
Hmm.
when I was a child, and that can be where that stuff comes from. It is still a question that if people want to talk about, I would like to talk about it too. The mother, the great mother, where is the great mother? Why is the great mother not there?
Hmm.
And I think that it is an issue for the whole world right now and has been for a long time. Where's the great mother? Meaning, why don't we acknowledge the great mother to the degree which we, in the Christianity I grew up in, acknowledge the great father and the great son? And why isn't there a great sister there? So just want to have that conversation, not disrespect anybody. And I wanted to share that. That's all I wanted to say.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And on one hand, and I think that's grace too, right? That we are allowed to be disappointed with spiritual systems and the way that religious communities behave in the teachings, right? Because the teachings are not perfect. They've gone through the human cognitive process, which we know is imperfect. So, I mean, there is room to be disappointed. But then, as you say too, we don't want to disparage those who are working, working their faith, working the system, who gets a lot out of the teachings, and as a whole, right? We understand that religious systems are there to do good in the world, so we don't want to take away from that. And I say we because I join you in that, Matt. And as a practicing Buddhist, I have tons of issues with the way that the spiritual system, religious system is carried out, how the philosophy is carried out. There's grave inequities, within Buddhism. There is the removal of the feminine, there's the castration of, I don't know, I'm just throwing things out there, but any and everything you can say there is wrong with Christianity also shows up in different religious and spiritual systems. And at the same time, I think the grace is that there's so much wisdom there, that you hold both of them, and you you work to discern what is true for you, and you take on as much as you can take on. And that's just been my path in all of this.
Yeah, and to me, sarcasm is under the table anger. It can be so.
For
Uh,
me, it is.
yeah, so I never want to. We're for me, we're doing this, and I'm pretty sure you're going to agree. I know we got to end, but uh, we're everybody gets to be in here. Nobody should feel unsafe. Catholics, please come in and talk with us. Please share with us. So, all right, are we done? I think we're done.
We are done.
All right,
We are not done. We are just gonna rest
right. We're going to
until next week.
pass over the threshold.
And
Do you
be,
want to walk us out or should
yeah,
I?
I'm gonna walk us out because you were so gracious to steward 2 times in a row.
Aw.
Ancestors, thank you for being with us in the Cross-eyed Crucible today with Matt and I as we steward this conversation. Please look after us as we enter into the outside world and we do this good work with those that we love in our communities and our families. Please watch over our audience members. Prayer protection also extends to them. Thank you for making this a beautiful and brilliant cross-eyed crucible, Matt. I am deeply honored to be in this community with you. I stepped out of the, the crucible and now I'm outside.
Amen. Thank you,
Amen.
Kevin. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for the gentle kindness and the dedication to rigorous honesty that you bring to the crucible. Um, I'm thankful for the ancestors. I'm thankful for the people who have who are attending, who are hearing our voices right now. And I ask for blessings on all of us as we go out to play in um, God's green fields. And this is Matt from Michigan, the Blue Hand State, saying thank you, thank you, thank you. And I cross the threshold and I'm out. Time to drum.